woman, beautiful, warm-hearted, and generous. To Montaro, she was the personification of love, which seemed to radiate from her, casting its glow everywhere, yet most directly upon her husband and son. Robert Caine entered the kitchen, embraced his wife, and then presented the letter. "It arrived today, out of the blue," he said. "What is it?" She was already able to detect an unusual enthusiasm coming from a man who usually tried hard to downplay his emotions. The letter was handwritten on Columbia Presbyterian Hospital stationery and signed by a Dr. Andrew Banks. Though Sarah Caine had not completed college after she became pregnant with Montaro, she was aware of Dr. Banks' reputation. On many occasions, she had heard her husband speaking of the renowned behavioral scientist. Banks was known primarily for his studies of individuals who were afflicted with varying degrees of mental retardation, but were inexplicably gifted in a single area, in some cases to the point of genius. Banks' work had revolutionized the thinking on mental deficiencies. This topic was also of great interest to Robert Caine, who had referenced Banks' studies in some of his own papers. Now, according to the letter he was showing his wife, Robert was being invited to join Dr. Banks' research group for a few days in New York as a member of an observation team consisting of about half a dozen professors to see how autistic patients processed mathematical equations. "This is wonderful, darling. I'm so happy for you," Sarah said, then called to her son, "Montaro, dinner time." When Montaro entered the kitchen, he saw that his mother was beaming, and so was his father, who seemed almost stunned by his good fortune. Yes, to young Montaro, this all seemed like good news. On his first day at Columbia Presbyterian in New York, Robert Caine finally got to meet Dr. Andrew Banks, who turned out to be a tall, angular Gary Cooper look-alike. In a mostly empty examination room, Banks introduced Robert and his fellow observers, 4 men and 1 woman, all professors, to an autistic man who was said to have astonishing math skills. The man was named Tom Lund, and Banks referred to him as an idiot savant. Lund was a blond, wiry, sharp-featured fellow with hooded green eyes, and he appeared to be in his early 30s, about the same age as Caine himself. He was seated on a metal folding chair in the center of the examination room, and he acknowledged the introductions with a lazy nod of his head while avoiding eye contact with anybody present. Dr. Banks and the members of his research team each sat on metal chairs that were arranged in a semicircle around their subject, while Dr. Caine and the other visiting professors seated themselves in a row of chairs behind the researchers. Lund was consumed by nervous energy that drove his impatient left foot up and down in an anxious rhythm. He seemed to want to get this show on the road for yet another group of spectators hoping to gain some new understanding of his abilities. Even so, when Dr. Banks posed questions to him, Lund was unable to completely conceal how much he enjoyed being a star subject. Banks began by presenting Lund with relatively simple problems, but those problems grew increasingly complex as he proceeded. The more Robert Caine observed, the more he became enthralled. In theory, he should not have been surprised that Lund was able to arrive at correct solutions to the questions that Banks posed. Having read Banks's work, Robert knew that individuals such as Tom Lund would most probably be able to calculate the sum of the first 100 integers as 500,500, or know that the 100th prime was 541. But what amazed him was the computer-like swiftness of Lund's calculations. Later that day, when Caine held his first one-on-one interview with Lund, he became only more awed by the man's genius, which seemed almost otherworldly. Caine recorded in his notebook a stunning experience, then added that there was always so much more to the world than what one initially perceived. The casual observer would have had no sense of all that existed beyond Lund's nervous demeanor and those hooded green eyes. The world was much like Lund, he wrote, so full of unexpected depths, so full of mysteries for men of math and science to solve. Science and education, those were the 2 subjects that Robert Caine valued above all others. These